Marcus stood at attention outside the royal palace gates, his polished boots gleaming in the morning sun. At 28 years old, he had served as a royal guard for 6 years, dedicating his life to protecting the monarchy with unwavering loyalty. His days were filled with routine patrols, ceremonial duties, and the constant vigilance required of someone entrusted with royal security. The other guards respected Marcus for his discipline and dedication, but they also saw him as someone who followed orders without question. He was the quiet one in the barracks, the guard who studied security protocols while others played cards or shared stories. His colleagues often joked that Marcus took everything too seriously, especially when it came to physical training and self-defense techniques. During their mandatory training sessions, Marcus watched as his fellow guards went through the motions of basic combat drills. The instructors taught them standard defensive moves, weapon handling, and crowd control tactics. But Marcus felt something was missing. The techniques they learned seemed outdated, designed for a different time when threats were more predictable and straightforward. In his spare time, Marcus began researching modern combat sports and self-defense systems. He spent hours watching videos online, studying different martial arts styles and reading about real-world applications of various fighting techniques. What fascinated him most was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a martial art that emphasized ground fighting, submissions, and using an opponent's strength against them. The philosophy behind Jiu-Jitsu intrigued Marcus deeply. Unlike other martial arts that relied heavily on strikes and brute force, Jiu-Jitsu was called the gentle art because it allowed smaller, weaker individuals to defeat larger, stronger opponents through technique, leverage, and timing. This concept resonated with Marcus, who understood that as a royal guard, he might one day face threats that couldn't be handled with conventional methods. Marcus began watching every jiu-jitsu match he could find online. He studied the movements, the positions, and the mental chess game that unfolded on the mats. He learned about legendary fighters like Royce Gracie, who proved the effectiveness of jiu-jitsu by defeating much larger opponents in early mixed martial arts competitions. These victories weren't about luck or accident. They were the result of superior technique and strategic thinking. The more Marcus learned about jiu-jitsu, the more convinced he became that this martial art could revolutionize how royal guards approached personal protection. Traditional security training focused on keeping threats at a distance, but what if an attacker got close? What if conventional defensive tactics failed? Jiu-jitsu offered solutions to these scenarios that other martial arts simply couldn't provide. Marcus began incorporating basic jiu-jitsu movements into his personal fitness routine. He practiced simple positions and transitions in his quarters, careful not to let his fellow guards see what he was doing. He knew they wouldn't understand his interest in what they might consider an exotic foreign martial art. The Royal Guard training program had remained unchanged for decades, and suggesting improvements was not encouraged. As weeks passed, Marcus became more convinced that he needed formal jiu-jitsu training. He researched local academies and found a reputable school run by a Brazilian instructor who had competed at the highest levels of the sport. The academy offered evening classes that wouldn't interfere with his guard duties, and Marcus decided to take the plunge. On his first day at the Jiu-Jitsu Academy, Marcus felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had spent years in physical training as a royal guard, but this was different. Here, technique mattered more than strength, and intelligence was more valuable than aggression. The other students came from all walks of life: office workers, students, police officers, and even other security professionals who understood the practical value of jiu-jitsu training. The instructor, Professor Silva, welcomed Marcus warmly and explained the academy's philosophy. "Jiu-jitsu is not about fighting," he said. "It's about problem-solving with your body. Every position is a puzzle to be solved. Every opponent is a different challenge to overcome." These words resonated deeply with Marcus, who had always approached his guard duties with a problem-solving mindset. During his first class, Marcus struggled with the basic movements. His body, trained for standing discipline and marching precision, had to adapt to the fluid, ground-based nature of jiu-jitsu. He found himself being controlled and submitted by training partners who were smaller and seemingly less athletic than him. But instead of becoming frustrated, Marcus was fascinated. Here was proof that technique could overcome physical advantages. Marcus threw himself into his jiu-jitsu training, with the same dedication he had shown throughout his career as a Royal Guard. He attended classes 3 times a week, practiced movements at home, and studied instructional videos to supplement his learning. His progress was steady but not spectacular. Jiu-Jitsu was known for its steep learning curve and the humbling experience it provided to new practitioners. After 3 months of training, Marcus felt confident enough in his basic Jiu-Jitsu skills to mention his new hobby to his fellow guards. He chose his moment carefully. During a casual conversation about fitness and training, the reaction was immediate and predictable: laughter, skepticism, and dismissive comments about fancy foreign fighting that had no place in serious security work. His colleagues made jokes about Marcus rolling around on the ground like a child and questioned whether such training was appropriate for someone whose job required dignity and professionalism. They suggested that his time would be better spent on traditional security skills or physical fitness activities that directly related to his guard duties. The mockery was constant but good-natured, the kind of ribbing that close colleagues often engage in. Marcus tried to explain the practical applications of jiu-jitsu for security work, but his fellow guards weren't interested in listening. They had been trained in conventional methods and saw no reason to change. Marcus's enthusiasm for his new martial art was viewed as a phase that would pass once he realized its impracticality in real-world situations. The mockery from his fellow guards intensified as Marcus continued his jiu-jitsu training. What started as lighthearted teasing evolved into more pointed criticism about his commitment to his duties as a Royal Guard. Some colleagues suggested that Marcus was becoming obsessed with an impractical hobby that served no real purpose in their line of work. During their weekly training sessions, the other guards would make exaggerated gestures mimicking ground fighting movements, rolling around dramatically and pretending to struggle with invisible opponents. They created nicknames for Marcus, calling him the grappler or ground fighter, in tones that made it clear these weren't terms of respect. The barracks echoed with laughter whenever someone mentioned Marcus's exotic martial arts adventure. Captain Reynolds, the head of palace security, noticed the ongoing jokes about Marcus's training but didn't intervene directly. He had served in his position for 15 years and believed in maintaining unit cohesion through shared experiences and common training methods. While he didn't actively discourage Marcus's outside interests, he made it clear during briefings that Royal Guards should focus on proven techniques and established protocols. The criticism wasn't limited to casual banter. During formal training exercises, some guards would deliberately comment on how jiu-jitsu techniques would be useless in their actual security scenarios. They pointed out that Royal Guards worked in teams, carried weapons, and operated in environments where going to the ground would be dangerous and inappropriate. Their arguments had logical merit, which made Marcus question his own judgment. Marcus found himself defending his choice to train in jiu-jitsu more frequently. He explained that the martial art taught valuable lessons about staying calm under pressure, reading body language, and maintaining positional awareness, all skills that translated directly to security work. But his explanations fell on deaf ears, and his colleagues continued to view his training as an unnecessary distraction. The skepticism extended beyond the Royal Guard unit. When word spread to other palace staff about Marcus's unusual hobby, it became a source of entertainment throughout the facility. Kitchen workers would joke about the guard who thought he was a professional fighter, and administrative staff would make comments about Marcus playing ninja in his spare time. The good-natured ridicule followed him throughout his workday. Despite the constant mockery, Marcus refused to quit his jiu-jitsu training. His progress at the academy continued steadily, and he earned his first stripe on his white belt after 6 months of consistent practice. Professor Silva praised Marcus's dedication and technical improvement, noting that he had developed a solid foundation in the fundamental principles of the art. This encouragement helped Marcus maintain his motivation, despite the negativity from his colleagues. At the academy, Marcus found a supportive community that appreciated his dedication to learning. His training partners included people from various professions who understood the practical applications of jiu-jitsu in real-world situations. Police officers shared stories of how the techniques had helped them in arrest situations, while security professionals discussed the confidence and awareness that training had given them. The contrast between his two worlds became increasingly apparent to Marcus. At work, he was mocked for pursuing what his colleagues considered an impractical hobby. At the academy, he was respected for his commitment to self-improvement and his willingness to learn from defeats. This dichotomy strengthened his resolve to continue training, regardless of the opinions of his fellow guards. Marcus began to notice changes in his overall approach to his guard duties. The mental aspects of jiu-jitsu training, staying calm under pressure, analyzing situations objectively, and thinking several moves ahead, enhanced his performance as a security professional. He became more observant of crowd dynamics, better at reading potential threats, and more confident in his ability to handle unexpected situations. His improved situational awareness didn't go unnoticed by Captain Reynolds, who began giving Marcus more challenging assignments. Marcus was selected for special events, high-profile visits, and situations that required exceptional attention to detail. However, these professional improvements were overshadowed by the ongoing jokes about his martial arts training, which continued unabated. The other guards developed increasingly elaborate scenarios to mock Marcus's jiu-jitsu training. They would create fictional situations where an attacker might somehow end up on the ground with a royal guard, then laugh at the absurdity of such a scenario. They argued that royal guards who found themselves in ground-fighting situations had already failed at their primary job of maintaining distance and control. Marcus's family and friends outside of work also expressed confusion about his new interest. They couldn't understand why someone with a respectable career as a royal guard would spend his evenings wrestling with strangers in a gym. Some worried that the physical nature of the training might lead to injuries that could affect his work performance or career prospects. The financial cost of jiu-jitsu training also drew criticism. Monthly academy fees, equipment costs, and seminar expenses added up to a significant investment that his colleagues viewed as wasteful. They suggested that Marcus could achieve better fitness results through conventional gym memberships or sports activities that cost far less money and time. As Marcus approached his first year of jiu-jitsu training, the mockery from his colleagues had become a routine part of his daily experience. New guards joining the unit were quickly informed about Marcus's unusual hobby, ensuring that the jokes and skepticism would continue. The situation had reached a point where Marcus began to doubt whether he should continue training or focus entirely on conventional guard duties. The pressure to conform was intense, but Marcus had experienced something transformative through his jiu-jitsu training. He had learned to remain calm in chaotic situations, to think strategically under pressure, and to solve physical problems through technique rather than force. These skills felt valuable, even if his colleagues couldn't see their relevance to royal guard duties. Professor Silva noticed Marcus's growing frustration during training sessions and offered words of encouragement. He explained that many students faced skepticism from friends and colleagues who didn't understand the benefits of jiu-jitsu training. He reminded Marcus that the true test of any skill wasn't in the opinions of others, but in its practical application when needed. The academy provided Marcus with a sanctuary from the constant criticism he faced at work. Here he could focus on learning and improving without judgment or ridicule. His training partners evaluated him based on his technique and attitude, not on preconceived notions about what a royal guard should or shouldn't study. This supportive environment kept Marcus motivated to continue his journey in jiu-jitsu. The Royal Palace prepared for one of its most significant events of the year, the annual charity gala that brought together dignitaries, celebrities, and wealthy donors from across the nation. This prestigious evening required maximum security coordination, with royal guards working alongside local police, private security firms, and specialized protection units. Captain Reynolds assigned his most experienced personnel to the event, including Marcus despite his colleagues' ongoing jokes about his ground-fighting hobby. The gala venue was the palace's grand ballroom, an ornate space with high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and multiple entry points that created complex security challenges. Guests would arrive through a main entrance where they passed through metal detectors and bag screening, then proceed through receiving lines before entering the main event space. The security team had spent weeks planning coverage for every possible scenario. Marcus received his assignment for the evening: personal protection detail for Ambassador Harrison, a diplomatic figure who had received recent threats due to his involvement in sensitive international negotiations. This was a high-responsibility position that required constant vigilance and the ability to make split-second decisions in potentially dangerous situations. Captain Reynolds's choice of Marcus for this assignment demonstrated professional confidence in his abilities, regardless of opinions about his training choices. During the pre-event security briefing, Captain Reynolds outlined the evening's protocols and potential risks. Intelligence reports indicated possible disruption attempts by political activists, though no specific threats had been identified. The captain emphasized the importance of maintaining professional appearance and conduct throughout the evening, reminding all guards that they would be highly visible to influential guests and media representatives. The other guards used the briefing as another opportunity to make subtle jokes about Marcus's preparation methods. They whispered comments about hoping no one would try to tackle him to the ground, suggesting that his jiu-jitsu training might finally prove useful if someone tried to wrestle him during the formal event. Marcus ignored these comments and focused on reviewing the venue layout and emergency procedures. As evening approached, the palace buzzed with activity. Catering staff prepared elaborate displays of food and drink, decorators made final adjustments to floral arrangements and lighting, and security personnel conducted final sweeps of all areas. Marcus arrived early to familiarize himself with Ambassador Harrison's schedule and planned movements throughout the venue, identifying potential vulnerabilities and escape routes. Ambassador Harrison proved to be a gregarious individual who enjoyed mingling with guests rather than staying in secure, predetermined locations. This social nature created additional challenges for Marcus, who needed to maintain close proximity while remaining unobtrusive. The ambassador's tendency to move unpredictably through crowds required constant alertness and quick repositioning to maintain protective coverage. The evening began smoothly, with guests arriving in formal attire and proceeding through security checkpoints without incident. Marcus remained close to Ambassador Harrison as he greeted other dignitaries, participated in photo opportunities, and engaged in animated conversations about political and economic topics. The atmosphere was festive and relaxed, with no obvious signs of potential problems. During dinner service, Marcus positioned himself with clear sightlines to monitor both the ambassador and the surrounding area. He observed guest behavior, staff movements, and potential access points while maintaining the professional demeanor expected of Royal Guard personnel. His jiu-jitsu training had enhanced his ability to read body language and identify unusual behavior patterns, skills that proved valuable in crowd assessment. As the evening progressed into the entertainment portion of the gala, guests moved from dining tables to a more open social arrangement around the ballroom. This transition created increased movement and less predictable positioning, requiring heightened attention from all security personnel. Marcus adjusted his position to maintain optimal coverage while allowing Ambassador Harrison freedom to interact with other guests. The entertainment featured a renowned string quartet performing classical pieces that provided elegant background music for continued socializing. Many guests used this time to conduct informal business discussions, exchange contact information, and strengthen professional relationships. Ambassador Harrison was particularly active during this period, moving between different groups and engaging in lengthy conversations. Marcus noticed a commotion near one of the side entrances where a small group of individuals was attempting to enter without proper credentials. Security personnel quickly addressed the situation, determining that the individuals were legitimate guests who had simply arrived through an incorrect entrance. The incident was resolved peacefully, but it reminded everyone that vigilance was essential throughout the evening. As the night continued, Marcus observed a man in his 30s who seemed to be paying unusual attention to Ambassador Harrison. This individual, later identified as David Chen, wasn't engaging in typical social behavior but instead appeared to be studying the ambassador's movements and security arrangements. Marcus made note of Chen's position and behavior while maintaining his protective duties. Chen was well-dressed and appeared to belong at the elegant gathering, but his behavior patterns were inconsistent with other guests. While others mingled freely and engaged in conversations, Chen remained focused on observing rather than participating. He positioned himself strategically to maintain visual contact with Ambassador Harrison while avoiding direct interaction with security personnel. Marcus discreetly communicated his observations to the security coordinator through his earpiece, requesting background verification on the suspicious individual. The response indicated that Chen had legitimate credentials and no obvious red flags in preliminary database searches. However, his behavior remained noteworthy, and Marcus continued monitoring his activities while maintaining primary focus on Ambassador Harrison. The ambassador's social schedule included a planned speech about international cooperation and charitable giving, which required movement to a small stage area where he would address the gathered guests. This transition presented a moment of increased vulnerability, as it required Ambassador Harrison to separate from the crowd and occupy a fixed, elevated position for several minutes. Marcus coordinated with other security personnel to ensure adequate coverage during the speech, positioning himself with optimal angles for threat assessment and rapid response if needed. The venue's acoustics and lighting were adjusted for the presentation, creating some visual challenges but maintaining overall security effectiveness. During the speech, Ambassador Harrison spoke passionately about the importance of international collaboration in addressing global challenges. His words were well received by the audience, who responded with enthusiastic applause and positive reactions. Marcus remained focused on crowd observation rather than speech content, watching for any signs of unusual behavior or potential threats. Chen's position during the speech raised additional concerns for Marcus. Rather than focusing on the ambassador's words like other guests, Chen seemed more interested in studying security arrangements and timing. His positioning suggested familiarity with tactical thinking, though this could have innocent explanations related to his own security background or professional interests. Following Ambassador Harrison's successful speech, the evening transitioned into the final phase of the gala, an informal reception period where guests could enjoy drinks, continue networking, and participate in a silent auction for various charitable causes. The relaxed atmosphere led many guests to let down their guard, but Marcus understood that this period often presented the highest security risks due to increased movement and decreased attention to surroundings. Ambassador Harrison was particularly animated during this reception phase, energized by the positive response to his speech and eager to continue conversations with influential guests. He moved freely between different groups, sometimes stepping away from Marcus's immediate proximity to engage in private discussions or examine auction items. These movements required constant repositioning and heightened alertness from his security detail. Marcus noticed that David Chen had also changed his behavior following the speech. Instead of maintaining his previous observational distance, Chen began moving more aggressively through the crowd, seemingly trying to position himself closer to Ambassador Harrison. This shift from passive monitoring to active positioning raised significant red flags and prompted Marcus to increase his own proximity to the ambassador. The ADR security coordinator confirmed through Marcus's earpiece that Chen's background check had revealed some concerning information. While his credentials for the event were legitimate, further investigation showed connections to political activist groups that had previously engaged in disruptive protests, though no criminal record existed. Chen's affiliation suggested potential motivations for confronting Ambassador Harrison about policy positions. Marcus faced a delicate situation. Chen had done nothing overtly threatening or illegal, but his behavior patterns and background suggested elevated risk potential. The challenge was maintaining appropriate security measures without creating unnecessary alarm among other guests or disrupting the charitable event's positive atmosphere. Professional security work often required making difficult judgment calls based on incomplete information. As Chen continued maneuvering closer to Ambassador Harrison, Marcus positioned himself to intercept any potential approach while remaining prepared for various scenarios. His Jiu-Jitsu training had taught him to think several moves ahead and prepare for multiple possibilities simultaneously, skills that proved valuable in reading Chen's positioning and anticipating his likely actions. The ambassador was engaged in conversation with a group of major donors near the silent auction display when Chen made his decisive move. He approached the group directly, initially appearing to be another interested guest wanting to join the discussion. However, his rapid pace and focused attention on Ambassador Harrison specifically indicated more purposeful intent than casual social interaction. Marcus stepped forward to intercept Chen's approach, positioning himself between the potential threat and his protectee, while maintaining professional appearance. He made eye contact with Chen and used a subtle hand gesture to indicate that he should maintain distance, a standard technique. For managing crowd control, without creating obvious confrontation, Chen ignored Marcus's subtle warning and continued approaching Ambassador Harrison, now speaking in an elevated voice about political policies and international relations. His words weren't threatening, but his aggressive tone and persistent advance despite security intervention indicated escalating intentions that required immediate response. Marcus attempted verbal de-escalation, politely but firmly requesting that Chen step back and allow the ambassador to continue his conversations with other guests. He positioned himself more obviously between Chen and Harrison, while signaling to nearby security personnel that assistance might be needed. The situation was attracting attention from other guests, creating additional pressure to resolve matters quickly and quietly. Chen's response to Marcus's intervention was immediate and aggressive. Instead of complying with reasonable requests for space, he attempted to push past Marcus to reach Ambassador Harrison directly. This physical contact represented a clear escalation that justified defensive response under security protocols, transforming the situation from potential threat to active security incident. The push attempt revealed Chen's intentions to create a physical confrontation rather than simply voice political disagreement. Marcus realized that conventional crowd control techniques would be insufficient. Chen was committed to reaching the ambassador regardless of security intervention, and his behavior suggested training or experience in overcoming standard protective measures. Other guests began backing away as they sensed the developing confrontation, creating an expanding circle around the incident that provided some operational space but also increased visibility of the security situation. Marcus knew that the next few moments would be critical in determining whether the situation could be resolved professionally or would escalate into a more serious incident. Chen made his second, more determined attempt to bypass Marcus and reach Ambassador Harrison. This time, he used a combination of verbal distraction and physical maneuvering that suggested familiarity with security protocols and possible training in evasion techniques. His movements were purposeful and coordinated, indicating that this confrontation was planned rather than spontaneous. Marcus found himself in exactly the type of situation his fellow guards had mocked during their jokes about Jiu-Jitsu training. Chen was attempting to get close enough to Ambassador Harrison to create a physical confrontation, and conventional security techniques of maintaining distance and calling for backup weren't sufficient to address the immediate threat. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus that the ground fighting skills his colleagues had ridiculed as impractical were now highly relevant to his professional duties. Chen's aggressive approach and physical contact attempts required the type of close-quarters, defensive skills that Jiu-Jitsu specialized in, controlling an opponent's movement and positioning without causing unnecessary harm. As Chen made his third and most aggressive attempt to reach Ambassador Harrison, Marcus realized that the situation required immediate physical intervention to prevent potential harm to his protectee. The formal ballroom setting and well-dressed crowd created additional pressure to resolve the situation with minimal disruption, but Chen's escalating behavior left few alternatives to direct defensive action. Marcus's training kicked in as he prepared to address the threat using the skills he had developed over months of dedicated practice. The techniques that had been mocked by his colleagues as irrelevant to Royal Guard duties were about to prove their practical value in exactly the type of real-world security situation he had been hired to handle. The ambassador and surrounding guests watched with growing concern as the confrontation developed, unaware that they were about to witness a demonstration of how modern martial arts training could enhance traditional security practices. Marcus's months of preparation and dedication were about to be tested in the most public and professional setting possible. Chen's final approach came with surprising speed and aggression. He feinted left as if trying to move around Marcus, then quickly changed direction and charged directly forward, using his shoulder in an attempt to bulldoze past the security guard and reach Ambassador Harrison. The move caught several nearby guests off guard, causing them to gasp and step further back as they realized a physical confrontation was unfolding before them. Marcus had anticipated this type of direct assault through his jiu-jitsu training, where practitioners learned to read an opponent's intentions through subtle body language cues. As Chen committed to his charging attack, Marcus stepped slightly offline from the direct path while simultaneously reaching for Chen's extended arm and shoulder, using the attacker's forward momentum against him. The technique Marcus employed was a fundamental Jiu-Jitsu principle called using leverage and timing over strength. Instead of meeting Chen's charge head-on with brute force, Marcus redirected the attack's energy while maintaining control of Chen's body position. This approach minimized the risk of injury to both participants while effectively neutralizing the threat. In one fluid motion, Marcus guided Chen's charging momentum into a controlled takedown that brought both men safely to the ballroom floor. The movement looked almost choreographed to observers, with Marcus maintaining complete control throughout the transition while Chen found himself unable to resist or redirect his own forward energy. Once Marcus had established proper grips and positioning, Chen hit the floor with Marcus, immediately establishing what Jiu-Jitsu practitioners call dominant positioning, a secure hold that prevented further aggression while minimizing harm to the controlled individual. Marcus's training had taught him multiple ways to restrain an opponent safely, and he chose techniques that would be effective but appropriate for the formal setting and watching crowd. The entire takedown sequence occurred in approximately 3 seconds, though witnesses would later describe it as seeming both incredibly fast and surprisingly controlled. Marcus's movements appeared effortless and professional, while Chen's attempted attack was completely neutralized without visible violence or injury to either participant. The contrast between Chen's chaotic aggression and Marcus's calm control was striking to everyone who witnessed the incident. Marcus immediately secured Chen in a position that Jiu-Jitsu schools teach as the mount, sitting across Chen's torso with his knees controlling the sides of Chen's body, making it impossible for the restrained individual to escape or continue any aggressive actions. From this position, Marcus could maintain complete control while remaining ready to defend against any additional attempts at violence. Chen struggled briefly against Marcus's control, quickly discovering that his position provided no leverage for escape or continued attack. Jiu-Jitsu's effectiveness became apparent as Chen's size and strength advantages were completely neutralized by Marcus's superior positioning and technique. Every attempt Chen made to escape only resulted in Marcus tightening his control and further demonstrating the martial arts' practical applications. The formal ballroom setting made the demonstration even more impressive to witnesses. Here was a royal guard, dressed in formal uniform and maintaining professional composure, using sophisticated martial arts techniques to resolve a security threat without chaos, violence, or disruption to the elegant evening. The contrast between the refined setting and the practical effectiveness of the intervention was remarkable. Marcus spoke calmly to Chen while maintaining physical control, explaining that his aggressive behavior was unacceptable and that he needed to cease any further attempts at confrontation. His voice remained steady and professional throughout the restraint, demonstrating the mental composure that Jiu-Jitsu training develops alongside physical techniques. This calm communication helped de-escalate the situation psychologically, while the physical control addressed the immediate threat. Other security personnel arrived within seconds of the takedown, but they found the situation already completely under Marcus's control. Chen was restrained effectively and safely, Ambassador Harrison was protected from harm, and the surrounding area was secure. The rapid and professional resolution of the incident impressed both colleagues and observers who witnessed Marcus's performance under pressure. Captain Reynolds, who had been coordinating security from a nearby position, approached the scene and immediately recognized the skill and effectiveness of Marcus's intervention. What could have been a chaotic wrestling match or extended struggle had been resolved with textbook precision and minimal disruption to the event. The captain's expression showed clear approval of Marcus's professional handling of the situation. Ambassador Harrison, who had been the target of Chen's aggressive approach, expressed gratitude for Marcus's quick and effective protection. The ambassador noted that he had felt completely safe throughout the incident because of Marcus's calm confidence and obvious competence in handling the threat. This positive feedback from the protectee validated Marcus's training, choices, and professional performance. The other royal guards who had previously mocked Marcus's Jiu-Jitsu training watched the intervention with obvious surprise and growing respect. The techniques they had dismissed as impractical had just proven highly effective in exactly the type of real-world scenario they might all face in their security duties. The demonstration challenged their assumptions about modern martial arts and traditional guard training. Guests who witnessed the incident were equally impressed by Marcus's professional performance. Many commented on the controlled and effective way he had handled a potentially dangerous situation, without causing harm to anyone involved. The intervention enhanced rather than detracted from the evening's sophisticated atmosphere, demonstrating that security could be both effective and appropriate to the setting. Chen was escorted from the premises by other security personnel once Marcus had safely transferred control. The incident was documented according to standard protocols, with witness statements praising Marcus's professional response and effective technique. Chen would later face charges for attempted assault and disrupting a public event, with video evidence supporting the prosecution's case. The remainder of the evening proceeded smoothly, with guests continuing to enjoy the gala while discussing the impressive security intervention they had witnessed. Many approached Marcus later to compliment his handling of the situation and express curiosity about the martial arts techniques he had demonstrated. His professional reputation was significantly enhanced by the evening's events. Marcus returned to his protective duties with Ambassador Harrison for the rest of the evening, maintaining the same vigilant attention to potential threats while processing the significance of what had just occurred. His months of dedicated training had proven their value in the most public and professional way possible, validating his commitment to continuous improvement and modern techniques. The 13-second intervention became a defining moment in Marcus's career, demonstrating that individual initiative and dedication to skill development could enhance traditional security practices. His willingness to pursue training that others had mocked had directly contributed to his effectiveness in protecting the people entrusted to his care. The morning after the gala brought a completely transformed atmosphere in the Royal Guard barracks. Marcus arrived for his regular shift to find his colleagues gathering around newspaper reports and social media posts about the previous evening's incident. Video footage from guests' phones had captured his professional intervention and was being shared widely, drawing praise for the Royal Guard unit's effective security measures. The jokes and mockery that had defined Marcus's relationship with his fellow guards for over a year evaporated overnight. Instead of dismissive comments about his ground-fighting hobby, his colleagues approached him with genuine curiosity about his training and obvious respect for his demonstrated skills. The same guards who had ridiculed his jiu-jitsu practice now asked detailed questions about techniques, training methods, and practical applications. Guard Thomas, who had been among the most vocal critics of Marcus's martial arts training, was the first to openly acknowledge his changed perspective. "I have to admit, Marcus, what you did last night was incredible," he said during the morning briefing. "I never understood how that ground fighting stuff could be useful for our work, but you made it look so professional and controlled. I owe you an apology for all those jokes." Captain Reynolds called a special meeting to discuss the previous evening's incident and its implications for Royal Guard training protocols. He praised Marcus's professional response and effective technique, noting that the intervention had protected both Ambassador Harrison and the event's integrity, while demonstrating the highest standards of security practice. The captain's endorsement carried significant weight throughout the unit. During the meeting, Captain Reynolds announced that he was initiating a review of current training programs to identify areas for improvement and modernization. He specifically mentioned Marcus's jiu-jitsu skills as an example of how individual initiative could enhance collective security capabilities. The captain requested that Marcus prepare a presentation about martial arts training benefits for the entire guard unit. The transformation in workplace dynamics was remarkable and immediate. Guards who had previously dismissed Marcus's interests now sought his advice on fitness, training, and personal development. His demonstration of practical skill application had earned respect that years of conventional performance had never achieved. The incident had proven that expertise commanded attention in ways that explanations never could. Media coverage of the gala incident focused heavily on the professional and controlled nature of Marcus's response to the security threat. Security experts interviewed by news outlets praised the technique and composure demonstrated, with many noting that such skilled intervention prevented potential escalation or injury. The positive coverage reflected well on the entire Royal Guard organization and their training standards. Ambassador Harrison sent a formal letter of commendation to the Royal Guard Command, specifically praising Marcus's exceptional protection services and professional competence. The ambassador noted that Marcus's quick thinking and effective technique had prevented a potentially dangerous situation from escalating while maintaining the dignified atmosphere appropriate for the charitable event. This high-level recognition significantly enhanced Marcus's professional standing. Professional security organizations began reaching out to Marcus for consultation and training services. His demonstration of practical martial arts application in a high-profile setting had caught the attention of industry leaders who recognized the value of such skills in modern security work. These opportunities represented potential career advancement that Marcus had never previously considered. The Jiu-Jitsu Academy where Marcus trained celebrated his success with genuine pride. Professor Silva and his training partners had watched the video footage with admiration, recognizing the technical excellence and composure Marcus had displayed under pressure. The Academy used the incident as a teaching example, showing new students how proper training could be applied effectively in real-world situations. Professor Silva approached Marcus after his next training session with a broad smile and heartfelt congratulations. "This is exactly why we train," he explained to the gathered students. "Not to fight, but to protect and serve when the situation demands it." Marcus showed perfect technique, perfect control, and perfect judgment. This is what Jiu-Jitsu is truly about, using skill and intelligence to solve problems safely. The Academy's other students, many of whom worked in law enforcement, security, or military roles, were particularly impressed by how Marcus had adapted his training to a formal, high-profile setting. They discussed the mental preparation required to apply martial arts techniques while maintaining professional appearance and composure. Marcus's example inspired many students to take their training more seriously. New students began enrolling at the Academy specifically because of Marcus's demonstration, with many citing the professional application of Jiu-Jitsu as their motivation for training. The incident had provided powerful evidence that martial arts training could enhance rather than detract from professional responsibilities, attracting students who might otherwise have considered such training inappropriate for their careers. Marcus found himself in the unusual position of being sought out for advice by colleagues who had previously ignored his suggestions. Guards asked about training schedules, academy recommendations, and the mental aspects of martial arts practice. His patient and helpful responses to these inquiries further enhanced his reputation as both a skilled practitioner and generous teammate. The Royal Guard training curriculum underwent significant revision following Captain Reynolds's review. Marcus was appointed to a special committee tasked with evaluating modern defensive techniques and their potential integration into standard guard protocols. His practical experience and demonstrated expertise made him a valuable contributor to these important policy discussions. Other security organizations within the government began requesting briefings on the incident and its implications for their own training programs. Marcus presented his experiences to police units, diplomatic security teams, and private security firms, sharing insights about the practical application of martial arts in professional settings. These presentations established him as a recognized expert in security innovation. The incident had broader implications for the Royal Guard organization's reputation and recruitment efforts. Young people considering security careers were impressed by the professional competence and modern training approaches demonstrated by Marcus. The organization found itself attracting higher-quality recruits who were interested in comprehensive, cutting-edge security training rather than just traditional protocols. Marcus's success also influenced training policies at other Royal Guard units throughout the country. Word of the effective intervention spread through professional networks, leading to discussions about incorporating martial arts training into standard security education. Marcus received invitations to speak at national security conferences and training seminars. The personal satisfaction Marcus felt from his vindicated training choices was profound but not boastful. He had endured months of mockery and skepticism from colleagues while maintaining faith in his chosen path. The dramatic validation of his judgment and dedication provided deep personal fulfillment beyond the professional recognition he received. His relationship with his fellow guards evolved into genuine mutual respect and camaraderie. The same colleagues who had questioned his training choices now valued his expertise and sought his guidance. Marcus responded to this transformation with grace and generosity, never reminding others of their previous skepticism or using his success to settle old scores. The incident became a teaching case study at security training academies, demonstrating how individual initiative and continuous learning could enhance professional effectiveness. Marcus's example encouraged other security professionals to pursue additional training and skill development, leading to widespread improvements in industry standards and practices. Marcus continued his jiu-jitsu training with renewed dedication and purpose, understanding now that his skills served not just personal development, but professional excellence. He progressed steadily through the belt rankings while maintaining his Royal Guard duties, becoming a role model for combining traditional responsibilities with modern training methods. 6 months after the gala incident, Marcus stood before a packed auditorium at the National Security Training Institute, delivering the keynote address at their annual conference. The same man who had been mocked for his unconventional training choices now commanded the attention of hundreds of security professionals eager to learn from his experience and expertise. His presentation, titled Modern Martial Arts and Professional Security Applications, drew on both his practical experience and ongoing research into effective defensive techniques. Marcus had spent months preparing comprehensive training materials, working with Professor Silva and other martial arts experts to develop curricula that could be adapted for various security roles and organizational needs. The audience included Royal Guards from across the nation, police officers, military personnel, diplomatic security agents, and private security professionals. Many had watched video footage of Marcus's intervention at the gala, but hearing his detailed analysis of the incident and its broader implications provided valuable insights into practical skill application under pressure. Marcus's presentation emphasized the mental and physical preparation required for effective security work in modern environments. He explained how jiu-jitsu training had enhanced his situational awareness, decision-making abilities, and confidence in handling unexpected threats. His analysis went beyond technique demonstration to explore the psychological aspects of professional development and continuous learning. The question and answer session following his presentation lasted nearly an hour, with audience members seeking specific advice about training programs, technique selection, and integration of martial arts principles into existing security protocols. Marcus answered each question thoughtfully, drawing on his expanding experience as both practitioner and instructor. Following the conference, Marcus received multiple job offers from prestigious security organizations, consulting firms, and training academies. His unique combination of practical experience, demonstrated expertise, and communication skills made him highly sought after in the rapidly evolving security industry. These opportunities represented significant career advancement and financial improvement. However, Marcus chose to remain with the Royal Guard unit, while accepting selected consulting and training assignments that complemented his primary duties. His loyalty to the organization that had supported his development, despite initial skepticism from colleagues, reflected the character that had sustained him through months of mockery and doubt. Captain Reynolds promoted Marcus to senior guard with special responsibilities for training program development and implementation. This new role allowed him to influence security practices throughout the organization while maintaining his protective duties. Marcus's promotion was celebrated by colleagues who now understood the value of his innovative approach to professional development. The Royal Guard Training Academy established a new martial arts program with Marcus as chief instructor. The curriculum he developed became a model for other security organizations, combining traditional defensive techniques with modern martial arts principles. Students from various backgrounds enrolled in the program, seeking the practical skills and professional advantages Marcus had demonstrated. Marcus's success story inspired security professionals worldwide to pursue additional training and skill development. Articles about his experience appeared in professional journals, online forums, and training publications, spreading awareness about the benefits of continuous learning and individual initiative in career development. Professor Silva invited Marcus to become an assistant instructor at the Jiu-Jitsu Academy, recognizing his unique ability to connect martial arts training with professional applications. This position allowed Marcus to share his expertise with students from various careers while continuing his own advancement in the art. His classes attracted security professionals, law enforcement officers, and others seeking practical defensive skills. The transformation in Marcus's professional reputation was complete and permanent. He had evolved from a mocked outlier to a respected expert, whose opinions were sought on security training, threat assessment, and professional development. His willingness to pursue unpopular training choices had ultimately enhanced his career in ways he had never imagined possible. Marcus's personal relationships also benefited from his professional success. Family members and friends who had questioned his training choices now expressed pride in his achievements and recognition. The validation of his judgment and dedication strengthened his confidence in making independent decisions about his future development. The incident at the gala had lasting effects on security practices throughout the government and private sector. Organizations began incorporating martial arts training into their standard curricula, recognizing the practical advantages demonstrated by Marcus's example. His 13-second intervention had influenced an entire industry's approach to professional development. Marcus continued advancing in both his security career and martial arts practice, earning his blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu, while expanding his responsibilities within the Royal Guard organization. He maintained his commitment to continuous learning, understanding that expertise required ongoing dedication rather than one-time achievement. New Royal Guards entering the organization learned Marcus's story as part of their orientation, understanding that individual initiative and dedication to excellence were valued and rewarded. His example encouraged others to pursue additional training and skill development, creating a culture of continuous improvement within the unit. The mockery and skepticism Marcus had endured became distant memories, replaced by respect, recognition, and genuine appreciation for his contributions to security excellence. His journey from ridiculed outsider to respected expert demonstrated that persistence, dedication, and belief in oneself could overcome any obstacle. Marcus's story became a testament to the power of individual determination and the importance of pursuing knowledge and skills even when others fail to understand their value. His 13-second demonstration of practical expertise had silenced doubters forever, while inspiring countless others to pursue their own paths to excellence. Years later, as Marcus reflected on his journey from mocked guard to respected expert, he understood that the true victory wasn't the dramatic incident at the gala, but the personal growth and professional development that had made that moment possible. His commitment to learning and improvement had transformed not just his own career, but influenced an entire profession's approach to training and preparation.